morning, everyone. My name is Jane Kamensky, and since January, I've had the privilege to serve as president of the Thomas Jefferson Foundation, which operates Monticello, except for this patch of hallowed ground. We gather here this morning on the eve of the 281st anniversary of Thomas Jefferson's birth to remember him at his gravesite, a privilege for which we need to thank the Monticello Association. Thank you, and thank you, Agnes and Thomas. Jefferson was famously allergic to marking his own birthday. He seemed barely even to want it noted on his tombstone, upon which he asked to list his 3 greatest achievements as, quote, testimonials that I have lived, and not one word more. In addition to refusing the public celebration of his birthday, Jefferson directed that his grave marker be fashioned from, quote, coarse stone, that no one might be tempted hereafter to destroy it for the value of the materials. He was wary of statues, portraits, robes, marble monuments, the trappings of kings, not of citizen leaders. By the time Jefferson died in 1826, the American people had begun to venerate the founders, even though the founders refused to venerate themselves. Visitors to Jefferson's Little Mountain took home chips of the stone obelisk, like pieces of the one true American cross, quote, carried off as trophies or mementos from a sacred shrine, as the New York Times put it in 1864 in the middle of a civil war. This veneration might not have surprised Jefferson, but it would have distressed him. For he believed that the country's destiny lay less in its founders' bygone eminence than in the ever-renewing genius of its citizens, a category whose membership had begun to expand by the time of his death. Quote, it is an axiom in my mind that our liberty can never be safe but in the hands of the people, Jefferson told George Washington in early 1786, when the independent United States was not yet 3 years old. So as we lay wreaths before this replacement obelisk, made not of crude stone but of granite, commissioned by Congress in 1882, let us think not only of the brilliance of Thomas Jefferson, but also of the bedrock principles of equality, liberty, and popular sovereignty, principles enshrined in and protected by the achievements Jefferson featured on the inscription beside me. Let us think, in other words, also about ourselves and our future, and what we can and must do to carry on the work of the democratic experience to which Thomas Jefferson devoted so much of his life of service. It is my pleasure now to introduce Trustee Emerita of the Thomas Jefferson Foundation, Dr. Libby O'Connell, to preside over our wreath-laying ceremony this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. O'Connell.
Thank you, Jane. I'm so delighted to be here with Jane today. Welcome again. This is her first of wreath-laying ceremony, and I know it's not the first for many of you, so welcome back. Annually, as part of our Founders Day tradition, we invite friends and admirers of Jefferson to present wreaths in honor of his birthday. We invite our special guests to stand behind their wreaths. So from my right to the left, we wish to thank, and when I call your name, please come up and stand behind your wreath. Number 1, Charlotte Bailey for the Albemarle chapter, National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution. C. Thomas Chapman for the Albemarle Charlottesville Historical Society. Jim Andrews for the Albemarle County Board of Supervisors. Captain John Warnicki, U.S. Navy retired, for the Central Virginia chapter of the Military Officers Association of America. Courtney Kakishin for the Charlottesville Albemarle Convention and Visitors Bureau. Mayor Juan Diego Wade for the Charlottesville City Council. Rebecca Ivins for the Charlottesville Regional Chamber of Commerce. Edward Herring and the Deputy Mayor of Besançon, Madame Sadia Garay for the Charlottesville Sister Cities Commission. Jefferson would be very happy to have someone from France here. Andrew Keller for the descendants of the signers of the Declaration of Independence. Allison James for the James Madison Montpelier. Zoe Jenkins for the Jefferson Literary and Debating Society. Dr. Jean Runyon for Piedmont, Virginia Community College. Cornelia Granberry for the Blue Ridge Committee of the National Society of the Colonial Dames of America. Thomas Randolph, a descendant of Thomas Jefferson, representing the Monticello Association. Angus Lamond for the Thomas Jefferson chapter of the Sons of the American Revolution. James Bradshaw for the Thomas Jefferson Foundation. Michael Quinn for the Thomas Jefferson's Poplar Forest. Brian Collody for the University of Virginia. And Dr. Phil Williams for the Virginia Society Sons of the American Revolution. Please remain standing for a moment of silence for the presentation of the wreath from the President of the United States, escorted by a wreath bearer from the United States Army 3rd Infantry, the Old Guard.
Well, I've teared up before 9:45 in the morning, so that's thank you to the band. That was remarkable. I'm also a lapsed piccolo player, so the fifers got me right here. I want to thank you all for being with us this morning, bringing the sun out on Jefferson's behalf. And we will continue the celebration on the West Lawn at 10 o'clock with our community partners, and you'll have also the chance to hear from our Citizen Leadership Medalist, Juliana Richardson, and our Citizen Service awardee, Dr. Andrea Douglas. So I will look forward to seeing you up the hill in a little bit, and thank you again for a remarkable ceremony this morning. Thank you, Libby.